deployment. What does this do? And is it something difficult? Absolutely easy. Just exactly the same way the ReplicaSet works. Everything what you've learned in ReplicaSet, everything holds good. We just had the pod, did not work for me, as in I was able to deploy, do everything, did not give me any superpowers of Kubernetes, so we made use of ReplicaSet, which gave a self-healing out of the box. Also, you could do manual scaling, manual rolling updates, manual rollbacks. Well, you have another controller which sits on top of ReplicaSet, meaning when I create a deployment, it is going to create a ReplicaSet. ReplicaSet is going to take care of this part. So I'm getting the self-healing and scaling anyways. On top of it, I'm getting some extra tools for performing the zero downtime rollouts and rollbacks easily. A couple of commands like setting an image, or I can trigger a rollout. I can undo a rollout with a simple command. I can roll back. So you're anyway getting the same features of ReplicaSet. On top of it, you are getting some additional features. That's your deployment, and that's the reason we don't make use of ReplicaSet directly. If we wanted to learn what ReplicaSet was, we learned it. Now when we deploy our application workloads, we make use of a controller called as deployment. How does this work? How different it is? Let's look at the YAML file. If you look at the YAML file closely, if I just look at the default values, not looking at the specific fine-grained values, the default values, if I look at it, everything looks the same. Everything looks the same. In the ReplicaSet under spec, I had replicas, I had selector which tells me how to identify, and I had a template when I needed to create the pod. Under the deployment, in this YAML file on the left-hand side, the only thing which changed is the deployment with the decaps. The kind here is ReplicaSet. Everything else remains the same. Deployment also has replicas. You don't mention this. Default value is 1, just like the ReplicaSet. You have selectors which helps you identify. You have template which helps you create the pod when you need it. Exactly the same. Only thing you need to worry is what the kind is changed. So from your point of view, whatever ReplicaSet you learn, it's amazing. It's good. Same thing holds for deployment as well. You're not learning anything new. Only thing what you're changing is deployment is the kind. From the convenience point of view, well, the deployment offers you some features of performing the rolling outs and rollbacks. What those are is what we're going to see. But from what I understand right now, the manifest file is exactly same. The kind is changed to deployment, so that is good. From my point of view, I don't have to learn anything new. So we know how ReplicaSet works. Same thing is what deployment do, but deployment does it a little different. What does it do? So when I create a deployment, I specify the replicas, I specify the selector, I specify the template. Life is good. When I create a deployment, what is going to happen? Behind the scene, the deployment is going to create a ReplicaSet with whatever template we have. Now, initially we just created a ReplicaSet. Now we have deployment controller looking after the ReplicaSet. This is going to trigger the creation of ReplicaSet. Well, ReplicaSet is going to trigger the pod creation for you. You're still getting all of those features of self-healing, all of that. On top of it, what does deployment offers us? Is deployment offers us the rollouts and rollbacks. So how does it work? So now from version V1 to V2, when we want to go that, what is going to happen is when you modify your template, when you say, you want to roll out, so you don't need to create another ReplicaSet. What is deployment going to do? Deployment behind the scene is going to create another ReplicaSet for you. ReplicaSet B in our example with what? With whatever specification you asked for, whatever template changes you did. Version 1 to version 2. It creates another ReplicaSet, just like the way we did it manually. And what did we do manually when we wanted to roll out the versions? Well, manually we scaled one up and another one down. Deployment is going to do all of that automatically. So it's going to scale down the older ReplicaSet and it's going to scale up the newer ReplicaSet. You don't have to get involved. You don't have to do that. Deployment will take care of that. There is a strategy type called as rolling update, which is a default. When we do so, what does it do? The older ones are getting scaled down, the newer ones are getting scaled up. Eventually, all your older pods will be removed and you will have newer pods. So you were able to perform a zero downtime rollout. Of course, you would have created a service for this deployment, the end users accessing it. All of the same story when we did it manually, same story remains. Now from version 2, I want to go to version 3. Fine, you will update the deployment spec again. It's going to create one more ReplicaSet. And what is that going to do? It's going to scale this guy up and scale the older one down. You create one more revision. You want to go from V3 to V4. Well, the same thing again. It's going to scale down. Well, you don't have to get involved manually. By default, it scales up. Now, how many pods will it get rid of? When it is performing the rollout, how many pods will it add? It has a default value. 25% is a default value set. Something called as max surge and max unavailable. Desired state is what we have defined, right? How many more pods can I add than your desired state, and how many pods can I remove than your desired state at any given point of time? That how many maximum I can have, how many minimum I have. That's around 25%. So it's going to get rid of 25. It's going to add 25, get rid of 25, add 25. Eventually, that is the number or ratio it's going to make use of and perform all the rollouts for you. Can I modify these numbers? Of course, you can do all of that. These are default values. Now things go bad. You want to roll back. You can just make use of simple commands like kubectl undo, and then it's going to undo this deployment, meaning from it's going to scale down the latest one and fall back and scale up the one previous to that. It also gives you options to roll out from one replica or one version. From v4 I want to go back to v1. Well, you can. All you need to do is make this guy 0 and make this guy to whatever the desired number you had. So it's going to help you do all of that without you having to do all of them manually. If you have 100 pods, you don't need to sit there and get rid of them. It gives you a set of tools which will help you achieve that. That is your deployment controller. Exactly similar. I'm getting all the features because it is making use of ReplicaSet in the background. I'm getting self-healing, manual scaling yet, and I don't have to do the manual rolling updates and rollbacks. Just a simple command. I sit back and watch the status. It is going to do the magic itself, rolling out, scaling up and scaling down. Well, how does this work? Let's go take a look at it. We have looked at the YAML file. Let me bring out my YAML file. Same thing, exactly the same thing what we saw. I'm just pinning some version. If I just say image name, Docker is the one who's going to fetch that. It's going to fetch me an image tagged as latest. I'm just fetching 1.17. Maybe we'll go to 1.1819. That's what we're planning to do. Let's go ahead and create it. How do we do? We can do kubectl apply from a file called as deployment.yaml. Our deployment got created. Very nice. What did it do? Well, I can do kubectl. Can you show me the deployment? Deploy is the short. It shows you. You have 3. None of them are ready yet. 3 is your desired set because 3 is the number of replicas what we asked for. Good. So what is this going to do? I told you what deployment is going to do. It's going to create a replica set. Kubectl get rs shows me that there is a replica set. Replica set has a name of my deployment and some random hash value. Good. And this is going to create what? The pods for me. And the name of my pod is the name of my replica set and some random hash value. That's exactly the same thing. If I quickly do this, kubectl get all shows me all the resources what I have in my default namespace right now, and it says you have a deployment which created this replica set and you have the replicas, just like the way we created a replica set ourselves manually. Now that when we created the deployment created the replica set, it's keeping an eye on that. So I don't have to create a replica set. So if you ask me a question, what do? Do I create a replica set or create a deployment? You don't create replica set. Why? You make use of a deployment, which is giving you more features. Same YAML files, everything same. This, whatever concept you learned is same. Only by changing the kind to deployment, you're getting more benefits. And as a reason, we don't really make use of replica set directly because deployment is going to make use of that for us and is going to give us all the features like self-healing. For argument's sake, what can I do? Get rid of this guy. Kubectl delete this particular part. Just delete it, but my desired state is what? 3. What is going to happen? Automatically recreate it because the job of that controller is to keep an eye and match your desired state. When I deleted it, became 2 and it was not matching my desired state of 3. So the self-healing is still there. Good. Scaling is still there. What did we do? Kubectl scale is one such command. Of course, the scaling is what? Manual in nature. We know that. What did we do? We did kubectl scale. Scale what? Scale. There's a deployment called as whatever the name we have. And whatever the number of replicas you want to scale. The scaling is manual. Next, what we're going to look at is the auto scaler. Though right now it's manual. Say I want to go to 9. Well, whatever you did with the help of ReplicaSet, all of that is there for you. All of that is happening right now. We are good. Life is fine. And I also taught you when I have so many pods out there, what did we do? Well, we had a problem. So many IP addresses, we need to configure the end user access. When we learned how to create the service, that's what we did. There's a better way of creating a service. It's called a new command called as expose. Kubectl expose. It's going to expose this, whatever you're going to pass on to that replica set or deployment or a pod. Making use of that label selector, it is going to create a service for you. Now, when I create a service, what do I need? Well, I need a selector. I need my pods are going to have some label. I need to have a selector. I need to tell what port number, and it's going to give me a virtual IP, which I can make use of. Expose command is going to do the same thing for you. What are we making use to identify our pods as part of deployment? Again, a selector. So we already have that selector. It's going to make use of that selector, whatever we mentioned in the deployment, and it's just going to create a service for you using the same selector. Meaning, whatever pods you're going to create out of this deployment, I need a service for it. The same label selector is what I'm looking at. Same labels there and same selector here. So you can make use of expose command. Expose a deployment with whatever the name I have. It's going to create a service for you. Well, I created the service. The only option we looked at was the cluster IP. I also told you there's another type of service called as node port load balancer. Well, you want to specify all of that. You can specify a lot of options to expose. I can do -- help, and it tells me what expose is all about. And it tells you, scroll up, it says it looks up a deployment, a service, whatever you ask for by name, and uses the selector for that resource as a selector for the new service on a specified port. So what do you need to do? You can specify the port and the name. You can leave it optional. For example, this way, I just can say -- port is 80. So I'm going to get a service which is going to make use of same selectors as a deployment, nginx -deployment, and give me that service port 80. I want to name it something else. I can specify name option. Otherwise, it's going to make use of the name of my deployment as the name of my service itself. I can specify -- type if I want some other type like node port, which we haven't learned all of that yet. We will leave it all of that for now. And I hit enter. What did I get? The service got created for me. When I say kubectl get all, I see the service got created very easily. So what do we do in the exam when we have a question? Create a deployment, create a service for that. Two ways of looking at it. I can generate the service YAML file, go modify the selectors, whatever I want to, like the way I taught you the last time when we do dry run for a service and stuff like that. Don't waste your time because time is crucial. Just make use of the expose command. Easier way of creating the service. Right? If I go back and look at this service right now, kubectl, can you describe me the service? What do we see? The same label selector, and all the endpoints are all populated because of the same values. These are the same things what we have. Right? Another easier way of creating a service. Right now we know only cluster IP. Let's go take a only look at that. Fine, life is good. We got the self-healing, we got the manual scaling, we created the service in the easier way. Now is where I want to go to version 1 to version 2. And I also told you deployment offers you, some better ways of doing things. You don't have to do things manually. What can I do? Well, you want to go from version 1 to version 2. We are running 1.17. We want to go to 1.18 of Nginx. You can do so. How? There are many ways of arriving at the same thing. In the end, what I need to specify or modify is my template. In the template, I need to modify what? The image name if I want to. Good. There are many ways of doing it. How? Edit is one such command we looked at the other day. Right? We also looked at apply as a command. If I have applied, if I've created this resource using the apply, I can modify the YAML file what we made use of, and I can reapply it. It's going to reconfigure that. Or there's another command which you're going to look at. Kubectl set is another command. Well, something is already deployed and you want to modify that. Set few things. Like what? I don't know. Let's ask for help. When I say help, it says, hey, this command lets you make changes to existing application resources. Like what? Like you want to change the environment variable, env, image, resources, some selectors, some service accounts, some subject, user group or service in case of role bindings. It allows you making use of set command. What do we want to change right now? The image. Fine, let's take a look at that. I will say I want to set the image. I still don't know what to do. I ask for help. It tells you, see, you can set the image for your replica set, for your deployment, whatever you want. Mention the type and the name of that, and mention the container name and what should be the container image. And if you have multiple containers under it, mention those container names and container images if you want to modify them. To the moment I'm going to modify into my deployment, what is going to happen behind the scene? It is going to create another replica set with this template, whatever I'm asking for, and it's going to trigger the rollout. It's going to scale that guy up and scale the other one down. How can I do that? With the help of set. Like I said, there are multiple ways of looking at it. Let's understand the set command. Good. Kubectl set the image for which, for a deployment named nginx-deployment. I need to give the container name. Well, let me look at what my container name was. This was my container name. Nginx itself was my name of my container. Awesome. So what do I do? Home, delete, and name of the container is this. The image what I want to go is 1.18. When I set an image, meaning when I modify that deployment, it is going to trigger another replica set with this template. I can optionally also pass in a flag called as record. This is getting deprecated and being removed in the future release, and record is going to be the default maybe, right? But in the exam, you can also have a question which says, create a deployment with so and so image, so and so version. Expose this deployment. This should be the name of the service. You have done that. That's what we have done. And then might ask you, go from version 1 to version 2. And while you do so, also record the changes. If you have that word record, this is one of the option to record the changes what you're causing. We look at that in between. All right. So what are we going to do right now? I'm going to hit enter, but before I do so, I want to open a duplicate session real quick. And I'm going to run the Linux command watch kubectl get all. And this is what we have. Very nice. I'm going to hit enter here, meaning I'm setting the image. It is going to create another replica set and it's going to scale it up manually. And I hit enter. When I come back and look at it, what do I see? There's another replica set which got created with whatever template we gave, and new containers are getting created. It also has the same label selectors, and whenever this container comes into the ready state here, they will be acquired by my service. So end user is accessing it. Now he has 9 of the old one, few of the new one, old and new, both of them. He is able to access it. Once these guys are up and ready, it is going to do what? It is going to terminate or get rid of the older ones. It is going to scale down this guy. See, as and when these guys are coming into ready state, we see the older replica set is getting scaled down and the newer one is getting scaled up. Eventually, what did it do? It replaced all of my old parts with the new parts. And while we did so, we did not have any downtime. Zero downtime rollouts is what happened. From version 1, we went to another version. Whatever manual scaling up and down I had to do, I did not have to do. Deployment took care of it. That is the strategy. What it did was something called as rolling update. All right. And now let me come back to my previous screen. Similarly, from version 1.8 is where we are right now. I want to go to 1.9. Fine. What do I do? The moment I modify my template again, what is going to happen? It is going to trigger one more replica set. It's going to do the rollout again. Let me go back. What do we see here? We see another replica set got created. New parts are getting created. Old parts are getting terminated. All right. And then by default, how many revisions or how many replica set is it going to hold? If you look at it in reality, when we see this output like this, the replica sets, and I'm just waiting for it to roll out real completely. So one terminating, awesome. So everything got terminated and we have the newer one. This is like version 1.19, whatever, version 3. All right. These two guys are the records in my database, in my etcd. They are not consuming any resources for me because the record count is the desired state set to 0. 0 pods is what I want. So no pods are created, but this information is set out there. This about the template, about the key value pairs of the replica set is sitting in my etcd. That's fine, maybe consuming few bytes, and it is maybe showing a longer output when I do kubectl get rs, but 0 is the desired state. So this is how we could roll forward. Let me do one more, just for argument's sake. 1.20, again same story, another replica set got kicked in and those containers are getting created and it's going to, all right, so let's go to version 4 and then after we go to 4 we will see how we can roll back. I'm just showing you, we never really do this, like you don't go 1 2 3 4 in the same day in production. I know that, just showing you a few things just for understanding purpose. So we have rolled forward, just waiting for it to download the image and let's see what's going to happen. I'm going to come back to my other screen and we have done some rollouts right now, right? Okay, this is what we did and we also recorded. Why did we do that? We will talk about that. And what did we do? We made use of a set image command. I said you can also edit it, apply. I'll leave that to you. When you do your practice, make use of those. You get into trouble, I'm there to help you. If not, you learn another way. Like I said, in the Linux world, you can arrive at the same result by running different set of commands. You can do that same principle works here as well. Kubectl set is what we did. Fine. Now that I do kubectl get all, I see I have many replica sets out here, 1 to 4. And if I go look at the describe of this pod, I will see the pod template is the version 1.20, whatever we made use of. Very nice. Life is good. Good. Things are not working. We need to do what? Rollout. Well, there's a simple command called as rollout undo. There's a kubectl rollout command. It's going to help you in performing your rollouts and rollbacks. All right. Now, kubectl rollout is another command. I ask for help. There are different controllers like deployments, daemon set, stateful set, which offers you the replicas. Making use of this, you can roll out commands which works with these three controllers. We have only looked at deployments, so that's what we're looking at. We can look at it, but what all you can look at it? With the help of kubectl rollout, you can look at the history, you can look at the status, you can undo a rollout, you can pause, resume, and restart a rollout if it is errored out in between. If it is failed, you can restart it. Kubectl rollout is another command. Let's look at the history. It's going to tell you rollout history. We have rolled out 4 times so far. So what's going to happen right now? The history guy has to show me that, yep, kubectl rollout history. History of whom? I don't know. Ask for help. History of whatever type, whatever name. Okay, fine. What is the type we have? We have a type called as deployment. Short for that is deploy. Name of that guy, nginx-deployment. When I do so, it shows me the history. It shows me the revision numbers on 1, 2, 3, 4. This was the first one when we started off. And we have 2, 3, and 4. It shows you change cause. This is where the record option comes into picture. When we rolled out, we also said -- record. You see this here, a flag what we set, which it also complained to that it is getting deprecated in 1.25. We are fine. Current version is what it is. If they ask you to record, you're going to make use of that. Why so? Because it shows you the change cause. When in reality, what is going to happen behind the scene is when you say record, it is going to take this command what you executed and store that as annotation, as metadata out there, as metadata inside your pod, adds as an annotation which stores there and tells you what caused the change. So you have a fair idea of what went on. Similar, there's another command called as rollout status. If the rollout is in progress, it's going to show you what's going on, how many are getting scaled up, scaled down, and stuff like that. And it's going to show you what's going on. Right now, everything is scaled out, so nothing is happening right now. It's telling it is all good, successfully, we are good. If it is failed, it's going to show you failed, or it's in the process of rolling out, few are getting created, few are getting deprecated. It is going to show all of that. Well, kubectl describe also kind of shows you that. Status is another command which shows you that as well. Good. We can also do what? We do kubectl describe me. Well, deployment also tells you what it scaled up and scaled down and stuff like that, right? Similar to what status shows is what I wanted to tell you. Now the kubectl. Now, when I looked at the history, this is what it tells me. So I want to find out a little bit what the template looks like, or whatever changes I've done. Well, if you have recorded, it's going to be here. Otherwise, also I want to look at the template. You can do so. I want to look at the history of a revision number. Now it's showing you all of it. I can also do what? -- revision. Revision equals to 2. What is this history? Show me the history of the revision 2. And it shows you what? The template, the pod template. When you did the -- record, it added something extra as annotations as change cost. That's how you can see it. But otherwise, it's going to show you the template. This is how a template is. Now I analyze, okay, this is what it is. Maybe I look at 3, it shows me what 3 was. If I look at 4, history shows it all. You specify a specific revision number you want, it's going to deep dive and show you that part template. Now that I know what is happening, we're good. And I realize I've messed up. I want to do what? Go back. Okay, no problem. What was another command what you looked at? Kubectl rollout. We had another command called as undo. So when I do undo and ask for help, well, it's the same story. It tells you what type, what name, and it gives you some options as well called as hyphen revision to and stuff like that. Right? If I scroll up a little bit, it gives me an example as well. So if I just do an undo like this, kubectl undo what? The type is deployment. The name is nginx hyphen deployment. It is going to undo to the previous version, the one before this, from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. So when I'm right on 4, when I say undo, it's going to go back to 3. That's what it's going to do. All right. But I want to go back to 2 maybe. I want to go back to the original one from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. Well, you have the option what? You can do undo and you can say hyphen 2 hyphen revision equals to whatever number. Your revision, I want to go back to 1. When I hit enter, now it's going to roll back. If I go back to my previous screen, what is it doing? The older ones are getting scaled up, the newer ones are getting terminated.
Thank you for watching this video. Now, all you need to do is click the link in the description below, or if you're just starting out, type k21academy.com/CKA02 into your browser. Once you're on the page, enter your name, your email ID, and your phone number. Then click on register now. Now, here you will be redirected to a thank you page where you can easily add the session to your Google or Apple Calendar. This is your chance to gain valuable insights, so don't miss out. Click the link now and take your learning to the next level. See you in the session.